On November 4th, 1942, in the evening, we were told by our neighbors with Mrs. Weiner, with that group of those four ladies, that a very bad thing happened because there was one Jew who had still a job outside, who was a saddle maker. He made saddles for horses for the Germans. Even he was brought back that evening. By 1 o'clock at night, which was now the 5th of November already, somebody knocked on our door and he told us that we should go into hiding. In that house, there was a basement. And as you came into this basement, there was a sand floor. Let's assume this is the basement. This wall is stones, big stones, kept together with mortar. There was also a ledge up there with old bottles, and it was half dark there. At the wall, which we didn't know, but the local people knew, there was a box filled with that same sand, and if you lifted that box, there was a shaft down, and behind this wall there was another secret room, and you could pull out one stone from that wall, the inside, to look what's going on in this room now. There we went. We were there about 20-25 people. At 6 o'clock in the morning, we hear German yelling, "Alles aus dem Verstecken," all out of the hiding places. Piaski will be clean of Jews. We kept quiet, and not too much later we can hear that somebody is working on that box. The Goldfarbs family, who owned that house, had a nephew who wanted to come into this secret hideout, but were refused because of the baby, because they felt if the baby starts to cry, it will give away everybody. When they found him, he told the police where we were. The night before I went back to sleep into the place of Mrs. Weiner, I was visiting with Amy. And it was already past 8 o'clock when I noticed that I want to leave. And they tell me, what's the difference? You can sleep here or you can go to the ghetto and to the other half, but the gates are already closed. I says, I want to go still on the other side. I got to the gate, and the gate, can you imagine two boards where the gate parts, and on the bottom there was, the wood was eaten up by dogs probably, and the gate was locked with a long chain, and I pushed those two halves of the gate out apart and squeezed myself through that opening. Now I was on the street, went on the other side, and there I knocked at the gate, and they asked me who I am, and I says, I'm too late, but I want to go back to my place of, and the Judenpolizei, the Jewish police, let me in. And that's what happened then at night. We were in that kryjówka, what they called in Polish, hiding place. And when they caught us, we had to come out. Each of the men got a beating on the rear end, and we had to lie down, and the Polish policeman beat us. And then we were incorporated in a huge group of people. But prior to that, a few days before that, the Germans came from Lublin, and they let the Judenrats stand in a row demanding money. And it was like on this row of homes, and I was in a home up this way, so I could see what's going on, but I didn't go to the window. I looked from just to observe, but not to be observed. They beat them with pistols, and they gave them money, and that was not enough. And I remember one fellow, forgot now his name, who was the head of the Judenrat, and he got beaten the most. And Goldfarb was there too, the owner of that house where we were hiding. That name will come back to me later of that one. And that was a horrible, horrible thing. They were now trying to get the most out of the Jews, whatever they had left, with the promise that Piaski ghetto will continue to exist, which was another lie. Because 2 days later, we were finally herded within this transport, marching under the guides, Ukrainian guards and the SS to Travniki from Piaski. I got one hit over the head with the butt of a rifle by an Ukrainian that I started, a nosebleed started. And I remember like today, I said to Mrs. Weiner, you know, Mrs. Weiner, it seems to me that we are walking in our own funeral. And that was so true without knowing what's going on. So then when we got to Travniki, which was horrible, that march was horrible. Raining a little bit.
Now, I just ask you a few questions about this whole deportation? You said that when you came out of the hiding place, the Polish police beat you.
Yeah.
Who were the Polish police also in charge of the?
They were involved in it too. They took everybody. They took even farmers with carriages to load some luggage and some sick people who were not able to march, just to get us to the train, to the cattle train which was waiting for us in Travniki, where there was already part of the train filled with people from Izbica, from another ghetto.
So they're evacuating the ghetto.
Right.
There are Polish policemen who are supervising the evacuation.
I have seen only one.
One Polish policeman.
The one who got out from the hiding place. And by the way, let's not forget this. As I mentioned before, Amy told me that I should stay with them at night.
Amy is your friend.
Yeah, but I didn't. I found out later, after the war, that the Germans threw hand grenades in every basement and in every house. And she was hiding with her girlfriend and probably some other people in their secret place. But they perished, entombed in the basement where they were. If I would have stayed there, I wouldn't be here today. If I would have stayed with them at night.
Describe for me how they got the people together to march to Travniki.
Well, they had whips and everybody was scared and terrorized to the nth degree. The sons of Goldfarb's two sons, they were accused of being the initiators of the hiding. And they walked as the first two, I believe they were handcuffed or something, toward Travniki. And one of the two survived the camp and died in Israel many years later. It was Abram and Mordechai, and Goldfarb's son. One was a sign painter and the other one, I don't know anymore what it was. But one of the two survived.
So people are walking toward Travniki.
Yeah.
Were anybody on wagons?
There were some people on wagons, sick old people who couldn't make it.
What about children?
I don't remember exactly on children on the transport, but I remember there was a Mrs. forgot now the name, and she had two little girls. And I could see how emaciated they were, and they I think died of starvation.
Now, what were the Germans saying?
They were not even there.
The Germans were not?
In the ghetto, they came only when they were herding up people.
But when they started marching toward Travniki,
Yeah.
were there Germans there?
Yeah, there were SS there.
Now, were they walking? Were they on?
Yeah, they were walking with us. No, they were walking.
Were they saying anything?
No, They just let the Ukrainians mishandle us, that's all.
And the Ukrainians were speaking what language?
I suppose Ukrainian among themselves.
What were they saying to you? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I know that I got hit, and I was kind of defiant a little bit, but I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I only know that I got a nosebleed out of the whole deal, and that I said to Mrs. Weiner, it seems to me that we are walking in our own funeral.
What happened when you got to Trebniki?
We were herded into cattle trains, beaten. And I remember I was glad when I was in the wagon already, and they closed the gate and sealed it so that I wouldn't get beaten again.
How many people were in the wagon?
I couldn't tell, but we were standing tight.
Were there both men and women in the wagon?
That was mixed. I remember these 4 ladies were with me. As a matter of fact, I remember when the train moved and stopped at night or early in the morning, and finally it was day, the day was approaching, I crawled up to the little window to look around, and I saw a big tower. So I said, I think that we are in the region of Poland, in Drohobych, where there are oil fields, because I can see oil rigs, but these were not oil rigs. These were watchtowers.
How long were you in the wagons before you arrived?
1 night.
Did they give you any food or water?
No, nothing.
Did people cry?
They were desperate, but I don't remember anybody crying. It was horrible because the people couldn't control themselves. They urinated, and it was just a mess.
Was it hot?
It was hot, but it was November. It wasn't so hot outside, and there was those 2 little windows, so we got some air from the outside.
Where did you finally arrive?
We arrived. By the way, I want to say something. When I came back to the ghetto the day when my parents were evacuated, my new winter coat, which I brought with me, was missing. Okay, it was gone. Mrs. Weiner told me later on that my father took it with it because he said, I will follow them anyways, and here it would get lost. That's why he dragged my winter coat. Now then, when we arrived, when the gates were open of the train, we went on the ramp and were herded through a yard where there were nice buildings, small buildings, like with German names like Schwalbennest, that means swallow's nest, and others, and with flowers, and we thought this is paradise. Actually, these were the quarters of the Germans, and we walked through that part of the camp into the next part